more reaction to the Marshalltown fire. Joining us now is Mzansi leader Songezo Zibi. Good to have you, Sam. Thank you very much for your time. Is there a legal basis for us to hold the city accountable for these lives that have been lost?
I think for the victims of the tragedy, it is possible that they may have a case for legal accountability. But for the rest of us, it is political accountability.
And does the limitation that we are hearing the president also saying exists in terms of laws, that they're saying it limits them to pursue what is right in as far as addressing the lack of accommodation in the city, a legitimate reason?
No, it is not. I think this is a problem that has persisted for a very long time, that is sometimes hijacked but generally unsafe buildings. You know, about 15 years ago, the first time I heard about building hijackings and this kind of thing was about 15 years ago. Somebody was my mentor, told me they gave up a building in the city. And the mayor was Amos Masondo back then. This is a problem that has persisted for a long time. I think 15 years is a long time for any political principal in South Africa to make an excuse for it. Certainly, there is no excuse for lack of electrical maintenance, electrical standards, safety standards, and so on. That is not something that has got a legal hurdle to it. It's a basic.
So we have two issues here. One is an issue of an inability to maintain public order, or what do you say, bylaws. They were unable to enforce bylaws. But two, you have a situation of a city that, or even a government, let me put it that way, that owns buildings that are on their asset register, but they don't even take care of them. They say, well, they were hijacked, and if we went and maintained those and continued to invest in them, we would be promoting illegality.
Well, that's an unacceptable excuse. We have called this murder because it really is murder. We have politicians, political parties, and a political system that perpetrates violence against citizens. And if for some perspective, let us assume that this was a bus that goes along one of our national roads, and buses are usually 65-seaters, and everyone on board would have died. The same politicians who say their hands are tied would be calling for the management to be arrested, for the owners to be arrested, people to be hauled before parliament and so on, because they understand that to be accountability. Because this was a city building, there will be no accountability, and they will make these kind of excuses. And I think citizens should not accept it anymore.
And when you say this needs political accountability, how in what form? How do you mean?
I think it is time for radical political action in South Africa. We have seen the city of Johannesburg being dysfunctional for quite some time. In fact, I'm also in the city of Tshwane, and it is sort of dysfunctional too under this administration, but generally it has been in chaos. And I think one of the things that we will consider as Rise Mzansi is a petition by the citizens of Johannesburg to dissolve this council and go to a new election, because we are a democracy. And when those who are charged with keeping the citizens of the city safe, because that is a government's primary responsibility, it is safety of citizens. If they're not able to do it, the citizens must make new decisions about who is going to be in charge of their city. Otherwise, this kind of thing is going to happen again and again.
Are you saying this is, by and large, I heard you mention that it's a symptom or even a result of the many motions of no confidence that we have been seeing in the city, where political parties, all of them, have really been interested in securing their own positions more than maintaining buildings and making sure that hijacked buildings are returned back to the ownership of the city?
I believe that's part of the reason, but let us take us back to the Zondo Commission. A late former mayor of Johannesburg was in a difficult spot and looked on his way to a 15-year jail term had he been arrested or he did not pass away, because the fundamental problem with various city administrations over the years is that they've been obsessed with looting and securing political positions for the purposes of looting. And when politicians are that distracted because they're trying to line their pockets, they have absolutely no time to enforce city bylaws, to enforce safety standards, and so on. You will find the same thing with that explosion in Johannesburg. You will find the same thing if you were to stop your first 100 taxis that you come across and people ride every morning. It comes down to political neglect.
If so, then should we place any value on this promise of a urban renewal program that is aimed at eradicating all these ills that are facing the city?
No, not at all. It's nonsensical. This is the year before an election. Part of the reason that you have had a new administration is that the various political parties want the power to appoint and remove officials so that they can direct contracts under the pretense of new renewal projects and this kind of thing to those who are going to divert those funds to those political parties to fight the election. No, it's false. It's not going to happen. It's a mirage. It's like all of these job creation initiatives where the jobs fall out of thin air. It's looting once more.
But what are we to make of this as citizens, right? We are led to believe that there exists some effectiveness in terms of procedural safeguards, in terms of some key aspects of laws, that there will be assessments, there are limitations, there are what you call waiting lists, and people will be moved into these houses. There are rental stocks that are being generated and so on and so forth. When it seems in essence all these systems, they fail when it comes to them doing what they need to be doing.
No, the problem is that governance in South Africa has collapsed, and that is a fact. So it's not just the buildings; it is the passenger rail system. PRASA is only beginning to turn the corner, and it's still baby steps. Transnet is dysfunctional. Municipal roads are dysfunctional. I was in Durban recently. Durban looks like nobody lives there anymore, and all of that is down to political neglect again. And I think we should stop thinking that it's skills, it's lack of new ideas and so on. What we have is people in charge who need to be removed at the next election. Truly, truly, that is the only solution. And I would urge every citizen of Johannesburg, if they don't want themselves to be befallen by yet another tragedy, like a sinkhole in one of Johannesburg streets, then they need to go out there and mobilize for political change. There is no other solution in a democracy.
Right, Mzansi leader there, Songezo Zibi, joining us this evening. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on this evening. Yeah.